Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Trigano Tribute. It's a 2009 model and we're based on the Fiat Ducato chassis. So under the bonnet, over on the left hand side, we have got your washer fluid, power steering fluid, engine coolant and brake fluid at the top just here. You've then got your engine oil filling point and your engine oil dipstick just down here with the red cap. You got a little sticker just here that says 611A, and that is the silver colour that runs throughout the cab. So if you wanted any touch-up paints or anything like that, you've got that silver colour there, 611, and as I say, that is a Fiat colour if you ever needed any touch-ups. Chassis plates just there. Over on the right-hand side, you've got your air filter down in this box down here, and just to the right of that, we've got a couple of things inside here. So basically, if you wanted to jump start the vehicle, you have got a positive terminal for the engine battery there and a negative terminal just here at the front. So you can see it does say there only for jump start, and so if you wanted to jump start the van without having to get into the cab floor, which is where the engine battery sits down here under this cover, if you wanted to jump start the van, it's a lot easier to do so from under the bonnet with those two little points that they give you. So that's what they are there, and that, to be honest, is about it for under the bonnet. If I open up the passenger door, we've got, just inside the door itself, we've got your bonnet release handle. From there, you got your jack and wheel brace kit from underneath the passenger seat there as well. And both of the front seats do swivel all the way around as well, okay? So there are little handles on the inside of each one, and it'll allow you to spin the entire seat all the way around. I've got these cushions out at the moment because I need to show you underneath that seat there. So that's just bear in mind, that's why it's like that. Just behind the passenger door, between that and the sliding door, we've got your diesel filling point. So you will need your ignition key to go into that to unlock it. Oh, you've also got, just whilst I'm here, you've got the cab blinds, all right? That's throughout the windscreen as well. So these work quite literally just by pulling back a little bit and then pulling this across. So you've got this little bit just here that basically clips over. As you can see, there's got a little clip on it. So that pulls across really simply like that, as you can see. Okay, so don't overcomplicate that. Don't pull it too hard. Just allow it to all go back nicely and then clip in. So you've got your full cab blinds there. They are not cheap, and normally they're something that are fitted from new, so I wouldn't be surprised if they've been there with the van from new. So just so you can see it as well, we have fitted the Fiamma FATS awning. Customers request to have that fitted, so that is a brand new awning. We thought we'd go for the silver one because obviously it's got silver body. I think it looks really nice like that with the silver awning. I have obviously wound the awning out and checked it, made sure it was all okay, and it was. And so yeah, very happy with that. The awning winder, again, just whilst we're on that topic, is just up here. Because it's quite a long winder, I couldn't really find anywhere else better than that to put it. So hopefully that's okay up there. If not, you can move it to wherever you want, but yeah. Right, so with the sliding door, you've got the electronic step down here as well. So when you press this button here, the electric step goes in and out like so. The diesel heating dial is that one just inside there that says Webasto. All right, just in case you ever forget where that is. So quite literally, to use your diesel heating, you just twist the gauge, just turn it around, and it will start going. That is genuinely all you need to do. So you literally just around like that, and the diesel heating is now coming on. As long as there's no light inside there, it means it's off. So it doesn't get much easier than that. Just having a little look around the outside, see if I can see anything else around and about. Nope. Okay, so on the back of the van, so they have had, at some point, they've had an external aerial, okay, on this vehicle. Now, I personally don't really understand why, because you can just get rooftop aerials instead, but it's up to you how you want to do it. But this is basically just a pole, just in case you ever wondered, this is just a pole for an old TV aerial, so don't worry about that, basically. So at the back of the van, obviously we've got the two rear doors. You have got a window on this side with a blind that comes up and a fly screen from the top. So you can open this window up. Nice and easy. Make sure that you press the little red buttons in on the window catches before you try and close them, because if you try and open these up without pulling the red catches, if you do manage to open it up, it means that you've broken it. Okay, so make sure that you press the red button in. So at the back of the van, we've got two lockers that are really important. So we've got the one on the left hand side, which is our toilet cassette locker, and the one on the right, which is our gas locker. Now that should have a little LPG sticker on it, so I'll do that in a minute. So the toilet cassette locker, just here. So this is a Thetford toilet cassette. This is your industry standard cassette toilet. So to remove the actual cassette toilet, we lift up on the little yellow tab at the bottom, pull the cassette towards us, and once we've got it to there, we'll then be able to take it all the way out. Okay, that's it in its completely removable position. To drain it out, twist this around and take the little yellow cap off the end. Once you've taken that cap off, you'll then be able to drain it out from there. When you're actually draining it out, you need to hold down the little yellow button just there, which will release a little bit of pressure and allow it to come out a lot easier. So just bear that in mind. You need to make sure that you're holding that button down. Push it all the way back in again until you hear the little clip, and that's just basically telling you that it's in position. And you've got a freshwater flush on here, so you haven't got to worry about any separate flush fluid, which would normally be your pink fluid. But you do still need to top up the cassette whenever you empty it out and go to put it back in. Before you slide it back in, you need to put a cap's worth of blue fluid inside here. And basically what it does is it just breaks down everything inside there and allows you to actually drain it out a bit easier. But that is the toilet cassette. On the right, as I said, we've got your gas locker. So the gas locker is pretty simple. You've got a singular gas bottle in there at the moment. We only just give away one bottle with every van. So we've got the singular gas bottle there. You've got a new pigtail hose on that. So I can see there it says 2024 on the pigtail hose. And to be honest, the regulator looks pretty new to me as well. That's actually a GOC regulator. Actually, that's a Trima one. Yeah, so it looks like a really nice new regulator. So you've got 5 years on the pigtail hose. To turn the bottle on, you go anti-clockwise around to the left and just go all the way until you can't go anymore. And when you want to turn it off, it's clockwise around to the right, all the way down. For the time being, I'm going to leave the gas on because I've got a few bits to show you on the inside. I will also mention that it's really important. You've got what's called dropout holes down here. Okay, that's really important. I see it all the time when I do the habitation checks and stuff like that. But it's really important that you don't fill this locker up with stuff. I know it can be tempting to because it's another bit of storage, and you know, realistically it's up to you what you want to do with it, but the dropout holes are really important. Basically, if there was a gas leak from this bottle here, or you know, if you had 2 bottles in here, if one of them was leaking, LPG is heavier than air. Okay, so when you essentially, if there's a gas leak inside this locker, the gas locker itself should be airtight. Well, not airtight, but you know, sealed off with sort of bits like this. Okay, and all the edges should be siliconed and stuff like that. If there's a gas leak, the gas will sink to the bottom of the locker, and if it can't get out through these dropout holes, the gas will just fill up and fill up and fill up. Okay, so it's really important that you at least allow these dropout holes to be free so that any gas leaks in the future can drop out through the floor. Obviously, at the moment, we've checked it over and everything's absolutely fine. But if in the future there was a gas leak, or if you didn't connect one of the pigtail hoses properly or something like that, you just need to make sure that you leave those dropout holes clear. That's probably the most important thing. Okay. Make sure that you turn the gas off before you start driving as well. The very last thing you want if you crash is 30 millibars of propane pumping out into the inside of the van somewhere. Okay, so it's just really important that you allow that to, you know, turn that off before you start driving, just to, you know, doubly check. If you turn the gas bottle off from inside the locker, that's then isolated from inside there and it's not going into the inside of the van. So it's a really useful thing to do. So on the off side of the van, we have got, just showing you that side. So we've got the electric hookup point. So if you wanted to plug your hookup cable into there, you can do. Having the electric hookup plugged in is actually really handy because it means that you don't have to worry about your leisure battery voltage. It means that you can use any of your mains powered appliances. So, you know, it's a really handy thing to have plugged in. Obviously, you can't always have a hookup plugged in. That's just kind of the joy of camping. And of course, your leisure battery will work without it. It's just that with the hookup in, the battery charger springs to life and you're going to be at maximum power all the time. This little thing here is our boiler vent. So if you are using the boiler, you need to make sure that you take this cover off. And if you wanted to double check that it's definitely working, you can put your hand over either side of this and feel the warm air coming out through that. So you can just double check that it's definitely on by doing that, basically. And then the last locker we get to, little locker, just get the right key, is our freshwater filling point. So quite literally, to fill up the fresh tank, you undo this little cap just here, so just twist it anti-clockwise, and then you'll be able to fill up the fresh tank from there, basically. When you want to close the locker back up, pop the key in, push the locker closed, and then twist the key, whichever way it'll go, and take the key out. Easy as that. Right, so I'm just going to have a little look underneath, see where the wastewater drain off point is. There it is. Right, so if you want to drain out your waste tank, I'm going to show you how to drain out the fresh tank from inside. But if you want to drain out your wastewater, I'll just zoom in a little bit. If you see there at the end of this little pole, you've got a little circular bit there. And if I pull on this, oh, it's already open. So basically, if I push it in like it is now, that's now closed. If I pull it out, that's now open. And all of your wastewater will drain out through there. Essentially, it just means that the waste tank's empty at the moment, so it's not going to drain any more water out, but that's how you would drain out the waste tank. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into the cab. So in the cab, you've got quite a nice high spec actually in the cab. So obviously, as I mentioned, you've got the cab blinds. You have got single DIN Sony head unit just there. Okay, there's nothing particularly interesting for me to point out on that really. It's just CD player, radio, stuff like that. And you've got an auxiliary point there as well, so you can plug your phone into it. So that's that. You've got your heater controls underneath that. So you've got your temperature on this little one here, fan speed from in the middle, recirculate or draw in from outside, and where the actual air blows to from that one. You've got your hazard lights, fog lamp, and you can lock and unlock the cab from inside here as well. You've got the 6-speed manual gearbox, which is really nice to have as opposed to the 5-speed. They're both fine, but when you're on the motorway, they really do appreciate this 6th gear. It's a nice little thing to have. Next to that, we've got your cruise control stalk down low. All right, so your cruise control works by literally just turning it on and off from there and then pressing go on the left. You can adjust the speed from there like that as well. So it's really simple. That is a factory fitted Fiat thing. Above that, we've got your indicators and lights. So you've got lights on this little one here, indicators, and your flash from there as well. On the right hand side, washers and wipers. All right, just simple stuff, normal, you know, same as most cars really. Down to the right, we've got your headlight adjustments and your mode switch. So you can basically go through and change a few bits on the dash there, like the time and whatever else. On the door, we've got your electric adjusting mirrors. So you can basically choose which mirror you want to move by twisting the actual whole thing, and then move it around like a little joystick to move it where you want to move it to. Okay, so that's about it really for the cab. The rest of it's all pretty self-explanatory. If in the future you get any warning lights come on, just sort of pointing out that your OBD reader port is inside this little cover just here, just to the left. So, you know, hopefully you won't get that problem, but if you do ever have any problems like that, your OBD reader is inside there. So what I'll do now is I'll just get into the back of the van and show you what we've got going on in here. So first things first, down here on the side of the driver's seat, we've got your fuse panel. Okay, so every single fuse, just before I point this out, every single fuse has got a little diagram above it telling you what it does and what size it should be. So if you find that you know, realistically, if you get any problems at all, you can give us a shout and we can point you in the right direction. But we're not always here. You know, if it's a weekend or something like that, you're away and we can't help, then, you know, it's handy to have this sort of thing here. So because they've all got a little symbol above them, you can actually sort of have a little look and see what might be causing you a problem. So let's just say, for example, we come into the van one day and we just cannot get the water pump to come on. We're turning it on the control panel, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, but we just can't get the water pump to come on. We'll have a little look through here and just try and sort of find which fuse does our water pump. Now, I think that one just there has got a little water pump symbol on it, so that would be the one that we would check. All right, or it could even be that one there, but you know, you can see the little symbols on them. So again, if your step stops working, you've got a step switch just there. If your lights stop working, you've got two lights ones there. And so, you know, you can have a little look on there and pretty quickly work out what it might be. Now that little switch just there, as you can see, does these little sort of LED lights on the back of the seats. Just thought I'd point that out as well. But yeah, so I always like, especially on these sort of Trigano Tributes, I always like to point this out because it's one of those things. Just get that the right way around. It's one of those things that if you are in a bit of trouble and you know, and we're not there, or we can't help you over the phone or whatever, you know, at least you can have a little look in there and pretty quickly work out what your problem might be. Something that I always recommend to all motor owners is to carry around a little box of spare fuses. Now that might sound ridiculous. You might think, oh well, maybe the things shouldn't go wrong like that, but you know, realistically, it is camping, and these sorts of things do happen. So if you are away on holiday and we can't help, it's really handy to have a little bag of fuses, just in case you can sort it out whilst you're there. So that's really good access to the fuse panel there. That's something that for our point of view, when we're sort of working on the motorhomes, something like that being so easily accessible is an absolute godsend. So yeah, really nice to have that there. So what I will start with is going to be the control panel. So the control panel is just up here inside the sliding door on your left hand side. Now these control panels are very, very simple, and well, not a huge amount to them, but I will run you through how to work them. We've got 5 buttons. Okay, so we've got one main button on the right hand side just here. This is your main power on and off switch. So if you see what happens when I press on that button just there, it gives us our battery voltages up here. So on the left hand side, we've got your vehicle battery voltage, and on the right hand side, we've got your leisure battery voltage. So that's showing us, when I just click this button the once, it's showing us both battery voltages. If I want to turn the entire control panel off, I press and hold on this button here, and you'll see what happens is it will go from 3, 2, 1 reserve, and it will turn off. So this is what you need to do. Press and hold, 3, 2, 1, reserve, and off. So that is your control panel completely off, and that is basically everything 12 volt related now off. Okay, so everything being drawn from the leisure battery is now completely isolated because we've turned the control panel off. When I want to turn it on, just press the button the once, and now that we've got the little green light inside here, it means that we've got the control panel on. The button to the left of that is our freshwater and wastewater gauges. So this is telling us here that our fresh tank is in the reserve, so it's really nearly empty. Okay, so in order to use the water pump again, we're going to need to put some more water in the fresh tank. Same goes for the waste tank there as well. All right, we're in the reserve for that, so and we know that that's correct because we've just shown you on the outside that the waste tank is empty. Right, it's flashing and beeping at us now. Don't worry about that. That's just telling us that the fresh tank is empty. It's called a tank alarm, and the reason that they do that, not to try and chew your ear off too much about it, but the reason that they do that is that it's really, really bad for water pumps to run when they're dry, when there's no water to run through them. They can overheat really quickly. So having the tank alarm is actually quite helpful, because if you're going to try and use the water pump without realizing that your fresh tank's empty, it will actually beep at you and tell you before you try and do it. So in this particular case, obviously I can't do it because I'm in the middle of doing a video, but in this particular case, you've seen that you've got no water in the fresh tank. So you're going to need to go around to the outside and fill it up. Okay, to fill it up is just as easy as taking that cap open that I've just shown you outside, putting a hose into it or a watering can, whatever you've got, and filling the tank up. Now on that same point, the fresh tank is just here. This tank that you can see inside the vehicle with the big red top, that is your fresh tank. Now, I mentioned on the outside about the freshwater drain off point because I did show you the wastewater drain. Now, if you want to drain out the freshwater tank, you've got this little valve down here with the blue sort of top. Literally, you just open that valve up and the fresh tank will start draining out underneath the van. So that's all you need to do. If you want to drain out the fresh tank, reach down there and open up that valve and it will just start draining out onto the floor. Okay, so that's just down there underneath this seat. So that is the battery levels and the water. The three other buttons that we've got over here are basically just 12-volt isolators for individual things. So we've got water pump. When we turn the water pump switch on, we get a light next to the water pump. If we want the external lights power to be on, we can turn that one on. You haven't actually got an awning light at the moment, so there isn't actually a light to power when you turn that one on, so you don't actually need to use that one. And then we've got internal lights. Okay, so that's your three switches there. Now the other two things that are up here, we've got this one here, which will normally come on when you start the engine up, because what that is a split relay, basically, is what that's trying to sort of portray. And what it means is when you start the engine up, the split relay takes some of the power from the engine or from the alternator and sends it back to the leisure battery. And so all the time that you're driving, the vehicle is actually charging both engine and leisure batteries at the same time. And so when that's working, you get this little light here come on. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes these lights just don't come on. Now, I don't know, because I didn't do the HAB check on this, but I'm just pointing that out. Don't be too put off if that light doesn't come on when the engine's running. It's something that was a bit of a novelty when they were new. And if it's all working perfectly and absolutely, you know, like it was when it was new, then that light probably will come on. But if it doesn't, don't worry too much. It is still working. I just thought I'd mention that. And then the light at the top just here, the one that says 230 volt, that is for when your electric hookup is plugged in. If the hookup's plugged in and it is working, you'll get a little light come up there just telling you that it's definitely on. And that's it. That is the control panel. So the next most important thing really is the boiler and filling up the fresh water, or filling up the water side of the vehicle. So the first step, as I mentioned a minute ago, would be to make sure that you've got water in the tank. So we've looked up there, we can see it's flashing at us. Oh, and by the way, just in case you wondered, it won't just flash at you forever. If you just press this button here, it will stop flashing at you. But essentially, you need to make sure that you've got some water in the fresh tank. Once you've got some water in the fresh tank, you can then do one other thing, which is pull this little thing back here and just have a little look down there. You can just about see it on the corner of the video there, your little yellow tab underneath this metal cover. Now that little yellow tab is actually the boiler drain off point. Okay, so where it is at the moment, laying down flat, as you can see by the little diagram that someone's made, when it's laying down flat, that's in the closed position, and so no water that you try and put into the boiler will drain out onto the floor. So basically, the boiler will hold all the water that you send to it. If you wanted to winterize the vehicle, you would lift that drain upright so it's in the draining position, and basically all the water from inside of it will drain out onto the floor, and it won't allow it to freeze up in the winter. Okay, and that's the only reason that you would ever actually open that drain up. But I just thought I'd point out to you where that was. In this case, because we've not got any water in the fresh tank, I can't actually show you this working because it's, we haven't got enough water. But essentially what you would need to do, if you wanted to, pressurize the system and make sure that everything was good, as I said, first of all, put some water in the fresh tank. Then turn your water pump switch on, and then come over to the kitchen sink. All you need to do from there is literally just pull the tap on the hot side. I might just have enough water in it to show you. And then turn it to the cold side as well. And then turn it off. Okay, so I just about had enough water in it to show you. So basically what happened was I turned the tap on and the pump started running. Okay, the pump started running because I've taken a little bit of the pressure out of the system by drawing the water through here. So basically the pump just runs on and runs on until it gets to pressure. Once it's got to pressure and there's no leaks and everything's good, the pump will turn itself off. So the fact that I've just used the tap there and then the pump turned itself off means that we're absolutely golden. There's no leaks, everything's fine. Okay, so that is the process of making sure that you're pressurized. It's also proving to you that the boiler is full of water. Okay, so pulling the water through on the hot side of the tap there and seeing that there's a good pressure coming through and it's not coughing and spluttering and going everywhere means that the boiler is full of water. If it does cough and splutter you a little bit, it's not a problem. Just allow it to purge its way through and just get rid of any air that might be in it from the last time it was used. All right, but that's the whole thing. That's essentially the process of making sure that you're pressurized and making sure that the boiler is full. So whilst we're here, we've got the 3-burner hob just here. Somebody in the past has put these little stickers on here so you can see which one does which. Unfortunately, the original markings on these do go completely they just rub themselves off. Basically, you just can't see them at all over the years, so you can't, they're no good really, but you can see what they're for now. I think that's back to front. There we go, that's better. Right, so that's a 3-burner hob. You will need some sort of an ignition, all right, to light any 3 of these up. Like a long reach lighter is normally what we would go for, like a candle lighter, which is something that I find really handy to have. Microwave underneath there is a isolating, there's a plug basically that you can undo inside here. All right, so if you wanted to isolate and turn off the microwave, you can do that just by pulling that plug out. Whilst we're in this cupboard, at the bottom here, we've got your gas isolator taps. So if you wanted to isolate the gas from any specific appliances, you can do that from here. If I just tell you what they're all for, the top one would have been for an oven if it had one fitted. Next one down is your 3-burner hob. Next one is the fridge, and the bottom one is the boiler. Okay, so if you wanted to isolate the gas appliances individually, then you can do that from there. Cutlery drawer there. Right, so behind me we've got the fridge. So this is a Dometic electronic ignition fridge. It's just for future reference, that little sticker down there is the one with all of the information on it that you could ever need. So if you wanted to know what make and model it was, it's an RM4211 by Dometic. Okay, again, you shouldn't need any parts for this because we've checked that it's working properly, and it is. And obviously we can get any parts for you anyway, but beside the point. So Dometic fridge, this is what you call a 3-way fridge. Okay, and what it means by 3-way is that it works on 3 different energies. So over on the right hand side we've got the gas, the green switch is our mains hookup switch, and the red switch is our 12-volt engine running switch. Okay, so I'll just turn this off for a minute because I've just had that on. So essentially, the 2 ways that you can get the fridge cold by itself are the gas and the 240 volt. And the reason that I say the 2 ways, not the 3, is because the 12 volt switch here, the red one, is literally only powerful enough to hold the temperature inside the fridge whilst your engine's running. So earlier on when I said about the split relay, when your engine's running, it charges the leisure battery. Yes, that's correct. But it also sends another cable back to the fridge. Okay, so all the time that your engine's running, it is actually sending a signal or a power signal to this switch here. So basically that switch there won't do a single thing unless the engine's physically turning over. So the idea is that you get it cold first, either on the over on the gas, or on the mains before you leave, and then you switch over to 12 volt just for when you're driving, and switch back to one of the other 2 when you get to where you're going. Okay, that's the general idea of how to use these fridges. That's the same with all motorhome fridges, by the way, not just this particular type. So if you want to light the fridge up on gas, you have got an ignition switch on the right. So ignition switch on like that. And then when you want to turn the actual gas burner on, push in and round to the left. Now, as long as that little igniter there stops flashing at you and stops clicking, it means that the gas flame has lit. Release that gas valve, and as long as you've released the gas valve and the ignition isn't flashing at you, the gas flame is on. Now, you can double check that if you want to, if you're not 100% sure. If we just pull this door to, it's a bit high up, but if you wanted to double check, you can put your hand over the right hand side of this top vent and you can actually feel warm air coming out through that. And that's essentially just proving to you that the fridge is definitely on. Okay, so that's how you would light the fridge up on the gas. The other two options, as I said, you've got your mains switch and you've got your 12-volt switch. So it really is as simple as select your temperature and press go. So if you're hooked up on the mains, I would use this one. If you're not hooked up on the mains, I would use the gas. Once you've got the fridge cold, switch it over to 12-volt, start the engine up, drive off. I will also say as well, I don't always say this, but a little tip for you, if you there's actually nothing wrong with leaving the 12-volt switch on the fridge. It's obviously good practice to turn it on and off whenever you need to use it, but you know, realistically, that 12-volt switch is going to come on as soon as you start the engine, and it's not doing anything until you start the engine. So you can, if you want to, leave the red switch on. I'm going to turn it off just because it's good, you know, good practice to do it manually. But there you go. So also, just like to point out on all the videos, please don't expect these fridges to get cold within half an hour. It will take considerably longer than that. And some people ask me why that is. Well, if you got a new fridge at home, if you plugged it into the wall, you would not expect the entire fridge to be cold within half an hour. You know, it's going to be a good couple of hours before the fridge actually gets cold. So, you know, your fridge at home is cold all the time, isn't it? It's on all the time. These fridges go off and on for periods of time. And so at the moment, this fridge is literally warm because it's not been on for weeks, or well, since the hab check, but you know, it's not been on, so it's not cold. So it will take a good 3 hours or so to get this fridge completely cold. And so just bear that in mind. If you are going to go away on holiday, I would recommend, if you can have a hookup cable plugged into the van overnight before you go, that's like the ideal situation, because then one, your battery charger will be on all night and your leisure battery will be at full power. And two, you'll be able to leave the fridge on the mains overnight, and that's just a really, really easy way to get it cold first. If you don't have that option, you can leave it on gas as well. It's up to you. But yeah, there you go. So, what else have we got? I think the last thing to point out is going to be the boiler. So, if I just push these back a little bit. 1 second. So I'm going to show you. Right. So, the boiler, you've got two options on here. Now, basically, the one at the top is how you would use the boiler on the gas. Now, I'm going to have to double check with the habitation engineer. In fact, I'm just going to have a little look on the top of the boiler itself. Let me just see. 12 volt. What name is that one? It is a... my eyes are deceiving me now. I'm just having a look for the model number on that. Right, I'm going to have a little look and speak to our hab check guy and just double check on this, because I'm not convinced that the boiler is a gas and electric boiler. I think these are normally just gas only, but I will double check. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use the boiler on the gas. Okay, so you've essentially got a little switch just there that literally just says boiler on it, so it doesn't get much easier than that. And quite literally, all you need to do to use it is press up for 50 degrees or down for 70. Now, you probably just heard the boiler there light up. It's as easy as that. There's honestly nothing more to it than that. You just select your number and press go. And after about half an hour to an hour, you'll have nice hot water going through to your taps. So it doesn't get much easier than that. Very, very straightforward. I am going to double check with Billy about the fact that it might be gas and electric, or it might not. I think normally these tributes are just gas, but the fact that this little switch underneath it is here is just kind of throwing me off a little bit, so I am going to double check on that. But I think it is just a gas only boiler. Okay, so I am going to end the video there. I don't think, oh actually I'll tell you what, there's one thing I need to show you. I'm good at doing that, good at forgetting these things. Right, so the bathroom, you've got two switches, or one switch up here, sorry, for these two lights. Okay, quite literally, you've got a pull-out shower hose from there, from the sink. So when you want to use it as a sink, you just push it all the way back through like it is now. And then the toilet is the only part that I tend to actually explain, because, you know, it's the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. But when you press the little blue button here at the back, your flush fluid pumps around to the toilet bowl itself, and then you pull on this handle here to the right. That then drains everything into the actual cassette, and then you pull the handle back. And that's it. It's no more difficult than that. Very straightforward. And that's it. So, I'm going to turn these lights off. So if there's anything you think I've missed out, or anything you want going over again, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.